All right, so we are live with the recording of the Drupal UX meeting on October 11th, 2016. And we have an agenda, which you can see on the screen.
Yes. First one is sample content, one of the initiatives that we basically kickstarted and really kickstarted at DrupalCon Dublin. And as usual with a global team of contributors, we have difficulty scheduling times to meet. And we want to figure out if we should not simply have sample content as a recurring topic in this meeting instead of scheduling yet another hour of people's time. I would be fine with that, of course.
I'd be okay with. Go ahead, Roy.
No, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it if that's what everybody else wants to do. But I feel as if the sample content is going to then start to eat up a lot of the time of this call, and I would like to get some kind of periodic meeting going on the sample content on its own, because I think that there's a lot of things to discuss on it. So
yeah, wouldn't it be good to do that then as needed and just have our Slack channels and issues for continuous updates and just working on things and decide when we want to have a meeting, or do you want to set a date?
Well, if it's difficult to set a date, and if it's getting too much, move it on.
Answer, you're cutting out pretty bad.
yeah, I didn't pick up any of that.
I think that I'll check my.
Same.
Yeah, still cutting out really bad. Did I hear her say she put something in the chat? Maybe.
I'll ping her and see.
There.
Yeah, so my feeling is the same people need to be involved either way. And the nice thing about these meetings is they have a wider audience. Like there's people here like Chris and Ruben, you know, like who are outside the core group, and it helps eliminate the kind of purple monkey dishwasher problem when you are playing telephone between one meeting and another. And especially given that both of the UX maintainers are located in Europe, and the default content people weren't able to find a time that works in Europe. So that's kind of a big deal. The one thing I worry about is I don't think we get Lee Rowlands on either of these calls because he's in Australia. And I was trying to do some math and figure out if I could figure out which of these he might be able to make. But I think right now it's 5 a.m. there, and the other UX meeting that's later on today is at 5 p.m. there, which seems like a perfectly reasonable time to. So anyway, it was just a thought because it didn't seem like we were arriving at a consensus, and it also seems like I wouldn't want these meetings to talk about everything else but example content. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like that's one of the fundamental, at least community-driven initiatives in UX. Real high impact kind of thing, and I think it makes sense to keep the core group all together. But that's just my opinion. I also hate meetings, so.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so we could even alternate the sample content updates, right? 1 week on this at this time slot, and the next week on the Wednesday mornings Europe time.
Sure. Or I would just let it flow. I mean, when there's something to talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's fine. I think that's good. I have a little bit to talk about this.
Do it.
and I have also a question for you, Roy, which is, who is the guy
Or girl.
that you introduced me to in Dublin, who we used to work with Mark Bolton, who was all excited about getting involved with this?
That's KJ.
Hello.
That's Keith.
That's okay, great.
Yeah.
And he's on the call.
Right. So yeah, so I have I've already I'm going to share. So have you used features module, Keith?
Yeah.
Well, I have taken a stab at actually creating the content model, and I have it as a feature. So
Okay.
I can share it with you as a feature, and maybe you could give me a look at, or give me thoughts on how it's going. It's interesting just for other people, as we go through this, because one of the things that I noticed is that the example content doesn't, or the examples that are for the guide don't necessarily map to a use case that is kind of realistic to a real world scenario. I mean, it's a farmer's market with recipes is nice, but really, if a farmer's market is promoting itself on its website, recipes are not the type of content that they're most likely to use. So I felt like we should add something in there that was more realistic, like products, and that the products could be part of recipes, etc.
Right.
So the other thing I noticed, several kind of things cropped up as I started creating the model. And, one was that we're going to need to have quite a lot of, I think, sane default configuration of all kinds of things to make it work. For example, view modes, views, form displays, all kinds of things. So the feature actually got quite large as I went through and configured all these things, all the, every single entity reference and view mode and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting.
Kevin, what's your standard for making it work? Because you're adding a bunch of stuff for making it work. How?
What do you mean? What's my standard?
For what does making it work mean? What was lacking in the sense? Was it not a complete enough picture, or not a?
Yeah, I mean, to make a site that looks like a real site, right?
But is that the goal? To make a real site?
If what we're talking about is an install profile, right? That then is themable by, I mean, we talked about also the theme, the theme project kind of syncing with this.
Yes.
And if we want enough content for them to theme, then there's a lot of configuration that goes into that, because we don't want to just leave things default out of the box, the way that Drupal gives you the defaults of fields and things like that, for example, because that's just it's not going to theme very well. There's a lot of configuration work that is going to need to go into making it, making things work nicely. So, and I only added one content type, which is product. I have everything else is just pretty much the way it is in the in the user guide, in the farmer's market, in the user guide from documentation. Even just with that, even if we took out product, there's a huge amount of configuration that goes into this, because you've got to set up view modes for particular types of things, which, like if you have a recipe, for example, which is one of the things, I need to set up a view mode. I need to set up the recipe in such a way that, that the list of things in the recipe can be themed and look like,
Okay. So the configuration you added follows the scenario as well, or do you go beyond the scenario there as well in what you configure?
It follows the scenario. It follows the scenario, but except for in the fact that it adds a product.
Okay. Okay. So really good that you already created a feature of it. I know code is gold, but to me that's not really accessible. Is there an outline or a list of
Yes.
the items that you could share with us somewhere?
I actually shared it in an example content
Okay.
stack. It's I need to update it. It kind of trails off at the end and doesn't kind of get finished. But this is a good idea.
Okay. Thanks. So this is already like. I mean, if people have questions about it, we should discuss it. We can discuss it a bit more. But my question would be, what questions do we have for product management if we want to have feedback on the idea? Because we're already like planning, right, or even prototyping in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of the reason why I went through this process was kind of to tease out problems that we would come across, you know, as we start to do this. So and I have discovered some of them. So that's interesting. Yeah, and so yeah, I don't know, Angie, what do you think?
Sorry, I did not hear the question.
So yeah, the question is, you know, what? So
I was wondering, like, if we have this idea for sample content, and as you hear, we're already like planning and prototyping it a bit. I was thinking from the team perspective, proposing the idea. What feedback to ask from product management? I mean, you can ask, is this a good idea? Or you can also be more specific, like, do you think it should be a full site? Do you think it should be stubs that help people at least a bit? Or I was trying to tease out what can we help to specify and get specific feedback on the idea.
So I think, yeah, there's kind of a couple of levels of sign-off. One is it a good idea to ship with default content? And I suspect, I don't want to speak for Dries, but I suspect the answer to that would be a resounding yes. So that's fine. Then I think the second aspect of that would be, is the content model that's proposed here the one that we want?
The second aspect would be?
Oh, did I get cut off?
Yes.
Oh, weird. Sorry. I was saying the second aspect would be like, is what's proposed here actually what we want? So usually the way this would go is instead of going straight to product management and asking for that feedback, you would post it to the ideas queue, get a few people, some from this call, some from elsewhere, commenting on the thing, getting it to the point where it has some level of consensus, and then handing it to product management, and product management goes, yep, that looks good. I guess it depends. If it feels like this is rife for bike shedding, though, we might want to change the process. But I feel like at the moment, this is in a Google Doc that hasn't been shared with anyone, and it needs to be an issue in the ideas queue before it makes sense to go to product management feedback, is my initial reaction, unless there's a strong, compelling reason not to do that.
Yep, makes sense. No, it should be reviewable on the issue itself, right?
And also, if it does spiral into like a horrible bike shed of death, that's another reason to escalate it to product management, because then we can come in and just make a call. But I feel like it's a little, I wouldn't feel comfortable just saying, yeah, we're going to do that without feeling like the community had the chance to be consulted on that first, because it's like a big deal. It's like the default experience of Drupal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, we'd probably be looking at that we need an experimental install profile, because the install profile would do the actual installing of config and sample content. So we're probably even looking at proposing an experimental profile that should not have to be the default one or the
Right.
most promoted one at
I believe
first.
we already opened that issue. So we
That's
have,
open? Okay. I thought I had seen that, but I wasn't sure.
yeah. So we have an open issue for the install profile. I'm not sure whether we have an open issue yet for the default content. I mean, there are old issues for this. There's a very old issue for adding default content, but I don't know whether we want to piggyback on that one, Angie, or whether we should open it.
I mean, at the moment, that is the one that's linked from various places, but we can do whatever we need to do, you know. Where is this issue? Do you have a link to it? And then we can say the URL on the call.
Where is that? Let me open up my dashboard.
Can I meanwhile just show you that? And that would be sample content for actually. So using a sample content that actually explains, or possibly pulling
Almost through you. You're saying, can we use a sample content that? Also, I found the issue. It's 2809635 is the one about great experimental and stuff like that.
Oh,
so I'm
great.
sorry, Acha, could you share and say that one more time? Silly technology.
Yeah, I think she was mentioning the proposal to make the install profile have sample content that explains Drupal instead of it being sample content, as in how would the Drupal site look like?
Right. So yeah, we brought up that. I could quick answer that, Gabor. Actually, we brought up that topic at the example content meeting at DrupalCon Dublin, and the general feeling was that it should be instructional in the sense that it is a really good example of stuff that you can do in Drupal, and also that it maps to the documentation, which is why we're using the farmers market scenario, because the documentation all has examples like that, but that the content itself should look like real content, that it shouldn't say, this is a node, and things like that.
We could always create a tour for that bit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we could always have the default front page be. Remember when the default front page was a tutorial? But anyway.
No, I don't. Has it?
No,
did
it used to totally be a tutorial that would like say step 1, do this, step 2. But then as soon as you your first piece of content, it vanished.
Yes.
And then you had no more tutorials. Good times. Anyway, we're really bad at this. So I feel like we could do both. You know what I mean? Like we could have the default sample content be around a farmer's market, but also include some default sample content that explained a bit about what it is. Like, like I keep dreaming about like a 2-minute intro video that's like, bam, here's what all these dumb words mean, and now you can do Drupal. Hooray! So.
Well, yeah, but I think the point about using tour module is good, because we've created a place to put that kind of stuff.
It's true.
We've created a tour module, and that's ideal for putting explanatory stuff. So then we can have the example and the explanation. They don't get in the way of one another.
All right, I think good enough for an update, right? Lots to discuss.
And I guess yes, but do you guys have enough? Like, do you need anything else from me right now, or?
Well, so I have one quick question, which is, do you think it's a good idea for us to get a sandbox of this up there to begin to give people a sense of what the example content might look like, or not?
I mean, I haven't read this, but overall, it seems pretty good. I mean, I love the idea of piggybacking off the documentation team work. I love the idea of having more than one content type that ships with it. I worry about going a little too far, like recipes. That's a whole situation. Like we could get into like, you know, there's like the fucking FDA or whatever it's called that has like the national, you know, recipe guide, blah, blah, blah thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, which is cool in a way because like we could showcase our API for stuff too with that. But, you know, so we might want to start smaller than go bigger later or something. But I think that as an MVP, definitely having like, it looks like we have a case here for different content types, a taxonomy term, I believe, is how we're doing the difference between categories of food. We have the use case for a view and a block, which is really helpful, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And then if we build a tour that ties all this together, I think that would be amazing.
And the idea to piggyback off the user guide scenario for the farmers market, I mean, is in itself seems like a good idea, right? Because synergy, but it also looked to us like a good shortcut to prevent bike sheds, because it's a good idea to follow this farmers market example.
Yep. Then we have half of our work done for us already because someone already figured it.
Right. And it would be a good use case for a new theme that could be be a bit more opinionated in its design than what, say, Bartik can do now for a non-existing, a very generic empty shell.
Yeah.
So that's why. Well, that's the pitch basically.
Yeah. I don't know whether more opinionated is the expression. Maybe I would say that it needs to have a more limited scope, because Bartik needs to be able to theme everything, whereas this one just only should need to be able to theme the things that are in this model.
Well, but it would be nice if it weren't a throwaway theme, like, and it could also theme generic stuff. But the point is we could pimp it out so the default looks really nice, like the color scheme matches. There's maybe a header image that's a basket of vegetables or something. You know?
Yes. Yes.
But then ideally you could change the header image to, like, you know, a basket of fish and make your fish market site or whatever.
So that we can add blue, yes.
There you go. Oh, I forgot about blue. Wah, wah. Anyway. All right. So anyway, this sounds like a good, I think the next steps are, let's get this into the issue queue in some form.
Yep.
And promote it a bit, get some eyeballs on it, and then we'll see where it's at next week. And if by next week it's like, yeah, that looks good, except for XYZ thing, then wonderful. If it's like a horrible flaming bike shed, then we'll figure that out too. And, you know, it's just like, but I think the next step is we need to get this out of Google Docs. We need to get it where people can actually look at it and comment on it and stuff.
Okay.
Thanks for pointing out that we have to get some community feedback in there first, because I kind of glossed over that part.
That's fine. Yeah.
That's our segue to the next.
There we go. The next
item,
topic. Right. Issue queue review. When are we going to do that? So, so I can give a little bit of an update on this from DrupalCon. So for those who don't know what the heck that is, basically, prior to DrupalCon, as a result of the discussions around how we best manage features in Drupal core, we created an ideas queue at drupal.org/project/issue/ideas. And this is where we've been moving feature requests that are sort of ill-defined. And the goal of this queue is to provide a central place for people who are not necessarily hardcore core developers who like to get all up in the core developers business, a place to look at ideas that are being proposed, comment on them to say, yeah, that sounds good, or what about this, or these kinds of things. And then, crucially, escalate these issues to core committers, particularly product managers and framework managers, so that they can actually give a yes, no, maybe, needs more info, whatever answer on these things. And that's something we don't really have currently, because currently you just, you post to the core queue and maybe someone sees it and maybe they don't. And generally speaking, if you have more friends in the community, there's a likely chance that they see it because you know who to ping, and then that gets into a whole insiders club, and it's all kind of a nasty situation. So we're trying to get away from that, and we're trying to give one place to go for anybody who has a crazy idea for Drupal to propose it, and then one place for the core committers to review it and stuff like that. So we had a meeting about this in DrupalCon, and what we kind of discussed is two things coming out of that. One is that rather than like discussing each of these issues ad nauseum and this kind of thing, what we plan to do first is develop like a rubric of priorities. So in other words, we might say features like 1, improves the usability of Drupal. 2, is a compelling feature we could put in the release notes. 3, leads to easier maintenance, or whatever the criteria is. We still have to brainstorm the criteria. But the idea would be that each of these ideas then would be scored, like say 1 to 5 on each of those criteria, and we'd be able to do like a simple math exercise to basically get a relative ranking of importance on how these things go. It would also allow people to rank their own ideas. If your idea is something that it's a 1 on everything that's important to core committers, chances are it doesn't really need to be in the ideas queue. It maybe is better as a contrib module. It maybe is better as just a patch to an existing module, that kind of thing. On the other hand, if it like lights up all the Christmas tree lights on the thing, then maybe that's something that we should talk about. And so the idea is we have this rubric that is public and everyone can see it. And then in addition to that, we have these public meetings every 2 weeks for a half an hour to review kind of whatever filters up to the top of the list. And that would be a group review with at least 1 framework manager, 1 release manager, and 1 product manager, as well as hopefully the usability team and various other folks, in order to kind of go through this backlog. It's going to take, like you can see the ideas queue already has, I don't know, probably almost 50.
40-ish, yes.
Yeah, something like that. So it's going to take us a while to get through all of those. But I think that that's okay. Because the point is they will actually get looked at every 2 weeks, which is right now they get looked at completely ad hoc, if ever. So, and then the idea is like this will be a way to kind of see the thought process of the Drupal core committers and how they work, and the usability team as well. It'll be an opportunity to get actual feedback on these things and in a predictable cadence and that kind of thing. So the first of those meetings was set up for, I think it's next week. Yep, next week on the 20th at the same time that this call started. So I don't have like all my ducks in a row yet with like making announcements about this. We were going to kind of keep the first meeting a little bit quiet because we want to just kind of like, we got to figure out our criteria, and there's going to be stuff like that. But we hope to have the same format where it's a hangout on air. It gets recorded for posterity and stuff, so people can then go ahead and do that. So that's
Awesome
my
stuff. Yeah.
Any
questions or concerns about that?
So I had one concern about the so this is the first time I've gone down and scanned through the issues in the queue, in the ideas queue, and I noticed a lot of take this out or take that out of core, and I think that I feel like those are not ideas. Those are proposals to remove things from core that belong somewhere else besides the ideas queue.
So why do you feel that? Because those things still need review from the same people ultimately. Like we still need a product manager and a framework manager to talk about these things and whether or not they're good ideas.
Because you're not creating anything.
You create room.
Yeah, you're creating room, easier to maintain product and a less complicated product. So.
Oh man, saying no or saying yes to removing, that's very much product management, at least.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, but it's like, it kind of feels like the ideas queue is the place for people to bring creative thoughts about new things rather than sort of prune our tree.
I think it's going to be 90% new things. But I don't really have a problem with 10% being removed things, because ultimately these people need an answer to whether we are or are not going to remove the book module from core, as the one I'm looking at right now. And if the answer is yes, then that gives people something to work on. If the answer is no, then we can put that argument to bed and we can focus our energies on something else. So I view it as more like a velocity increaser. It's like getting these long buried. Like if you look at some of the created dates on this stuff, like I'm gonna sort this
Yeah,
list.
it's preventing death marches, right?
Yeah, we have one issue that's like, oh, that's that's the one we just talked about.
Yes.
10 years in 1 month of adding sample content to install profile. So if we could get sign off that like, yeah, that's a good idea, let's do it. I mean, that would be amazing. But there's a bunch of these that are 7 years old, 6 years old, 5 years old. So it'd be great to, yeah, the death march. Just people feel like they're not heard when they're not heard. It turns out. So let's hear them and give them a channel through which to speak. So we'll see how it goes. You know, like we do other triage calls that are not public, but it felt important to me, at least, for this to be public because it I don't know, it's you know, sort of like the direction of the entire project, right? It's like sort of important that people can see the inner workings of how that happens and stuff. So so we'll try it and see what happens, and yeah, that kind of thing. But that's the intent anyway. And so bi-weekly Thursdays at the same time as this meeting, which is noon Pacific and other times, other places, every other week.
All right. Thanks for that.
Yep.
Any questions around this? Any other questions around this? All right. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I was going through the issue through the needs usability review issue, and there's a critical one for Drupal 8.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Let's open it. I am not familiar yet with the issue. It's give users the option to prevent Drupal from automatically marking unused files as temporary.
Oh boy.
Alex Pott added the needs usability review tag because of words, I think. Anybody on this call familiar with this issue that could give an intro on it?
I'm not familiar with this issue specifically, but I'm familiar with the general problem space.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem space is that when you're uploading an image or a file, any kind of file, doesn't have to be an image, the default behavior is going to be to assume that if that file never ends up in a published node, then we're going to just go ahead and delete it after 6 hours because the feeling is, oh, you probably just did that in preview mode just to see what it looked like and then you got distracted and you left. Or that file used to be part of a node that was published, but you deleted it, and so you no longer want that file around. However, for the use case of their, like where you have reusable media in a media library, which is a common use case, then it is quite frequent that you will upload files, and usually in bulk, that have no attachment to any particular piece of content because you want to sometime later go in and select from, you know, a list, a library of images. And so the goal here is to give people a toggle in the admin panel that that allows them to choose whether or not they indeed want it to be treated like oops or whether they want to treat it as by design. So it's kind of a dumb toggle because it's like you have to set it like for the entire website, not just for like on a per file field basis or something like that. But that's the goal of the thing. So I think it's probably two questions. One,
what's
do we
the
agree
default?
that toggle is the best way to do this? And two, are we okay with how it looks?
Okay, so this looks like this is the setting.
Uh-huh.
Orphaned. It starts with a difficult word.
It's difficult emotionally and anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Creepy.
Yeah,
Almost creepy.
Yeah, we
Orphan
see
files.
orphan files for quite a while, though. That's not new.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mark unused files as orphaned. Warning. There are breaks with this.
Yeah, they don't explain what's the difference between unused and orphaned. Like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess if they are orphaned, then they're gonna get deleted. If they are unused, then they are not.
Mark unused files for deletion.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Delete unused files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Or it explains. It is explained in the bottom bit. Orphan files are not referenced from any content, but remain in the file system and may appear in listings.
Which is also true for unused files. But orphan files are also slated for deletion, unlike unused files.
Right.
So the definition applies to both unused and orphaned, but the orphans behave differently after 6 hours.
Right. And do we create an inconsistency if we would move away from orphaned here? Because you say it's being used.
I don't think we are using it extensively. I think that's limited to this area. But I remember when we introduced it, but I can grab for that. Orphaned. Yeah, we mentioned orphaned. Yeah, it's like
I don't think here.
we mentioned orphan like 10 times.
Not used often.
So this is probably the only exposure of orphan on the UI.
We could call it unused files. That's a little bit simpler language.
Yeah, I would propose to rewrite this using unused and deletion. Yeah.
So we change the topic or the title to unused files. Mark unused files as for deletion. As the checkbox label or something.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to do a first step at a rewrite? Because hashing these lines out in the call right now,
Yes,
you can do it, but
I
would.
I can do a rewrite.
Oh, please
Okay,
do,
that would
Antje.
be
Yeah,
awesome.
and we review it more in the actual issue, I think, because there's too many words in this to fix it
Also,
here.
we need to figure out why is it 2 different settings. Like the drop down can say never, and then
Which is actually what the checkbox already does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we might be able to get rid of the checkbox altogether. That would be cool.
Right.
You just need delete unused files after.
Yep.
Yeah, after never sounds but yeah.
After never.
Happily
Yeah,
after
or
never.
make right or remove never from the select list and make the select list dependent on the state of the checkbox, so it doesn't even show.
Oh, fancy man.
Yeah, all that stuff.
We have to be careful about scope creep though, because it is a.
Yeah, well, it's a critical, so let's fix the words.
But what sucks about this is it's a critical only because there's an actual critical bug that's elsewhere, and we're trying to expose a warning to users about the fact that we haven't fixed it yet. It's weird.
It's critical by association.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's have a look at Antje's first rewrite and just show up in the issue and hash it out there.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Antje. That's great. By the way, we heard you fine there. Did you want to speak whatever you were trying to speak earlier in the call?
It's fine. And I moved closer to the access point.
Oh yeah, that helped a lot.
That's fine.
It works well now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So with 15 minutes left.
15 minutes, that's not going to be much time. Let's see.
No, we can have a look at what's. Ooh.
okay, that's not bad. Can you paste that link so I can just click it?
Yes, I am pasting it into.
Boop. All right. Node add form shows create new revision checkbox. Sounds suspiciously easy. Let's try it. Let's see.
Yeah, this is. I think I remember this one. It just shows that on creation of. Yeah, it's it's a report by catch, so it has. You have to interpret it a bit. It would be interesting to know how you can create a new node without a new revision being created.
Okay.
Because
so
you're
it's a simple.
creating a new node, there's no need to show a revision checkbox. It doesn't do anything, right?
Fair enough. Okay. And the patch is super simple. I guess I can screen share.
Yes.
Here. Well,
yes.
I'm not in a
Can
good
you?
position doing that at all. I have so many frigging tabs and windows and stuff. Yeah, let me try.
Okay.
Just ignore everything you see. Okay, let's see.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the patch here. It's very simple. The only change it really does is instead of just checking administer nodes, it also makes sure the node is not new. And it has test coverage, which is exactly what it needs to have. And the test coverage, everything looks all copacetic coding standards wise. So this looks great. And this might have been a patch that was worked on. It was worked on at Dev Days Milan, at least, maybe some other places too, and Dublin. There you go. So this would be a good one to commit, I think.
Yes.
Probably only to 8.3 though, because it's only it's a little bit of a behavior change from 8.2.
And all these screenshots need to be updated.
Yeah, that. Okay, I'm comfortable with this. Normally I would test it on Simply Test Me and do all that jazz. However, we are in a little bit of a time crunch. Famous last friggin'
However, we are recording this, so we don't.
Oh yeah, I'm always super thorough and never cut corners ever, as everyone will attest, right? Oh, I gotta be real careful here because the last time I committed something, it was at DrupalCon, and I committed to Drupal 7. So let's get out of that. Anyway. Gonna grab the newest stuff. Getty. Beep. Okay. That looks like what I said. Let's start doing the credit game. This is gonna be a lot of fun. So Gabor looks like he's been all over this issue. Release managing it. Catch filed the issue, so that's good. Kamala Rajabapapa. Okay, that's useful feedback. Doop. Yoroi, that guy's a bum. Let's not give him any credit.
Yeah. Don't. Kamal was a bit. Yeah, I was just explaining, helping along.
That's fine. That's mentorship. That's good.
Yes.
Yep, that's fine. That would do full N. Romance. Yep. So they were talking back and forth. That's good. D at Marg. Okay, so D at Marg was the mentor. So everybody gets credit. You get a credit. And you get a credit. All right. So I'm going to be optimistic here and mark it fixed before I've actually committed anything, because as you can see, sometimes Drupal.org has this funny problem where even though I'm checking things here, it doesn't actually do it. So The good news is, though, I always forget to mark an issue fixed. So this way, this way I'm covered. Either way. So let's do this. Copy the commit message. And push. Hooray. That feels good. Now, where was the rest of the list? List. This one, yeah. All right. Focus state bug on text field Ajax calls. That doesn't sound easy. Something another Ajax. No. Oh, I love this issue, but that's still blocked on Cutsr. This issue's the best, though. All right. Oh, this looks easy. Replace
yeah,
delete block on the block layout page with remove. Okay. I'm guessing it does exactly what
That's mine.
you...
Antje knows about this, right? Yeah.
Well,
Oh, is it yours? Nice.
It's mine, yes. And we were mentoring somebody in Dublin for doing.
Great. I love committing Dublin patches.
Because it doesn't actually delete, right?
Yeah, do we have a screenshot anywhere? Oh, we do. You guys are so great. Okay, so disable or remove. Oh, I forgot you could still disable blocks. For some reason, I thought we got rid of that. Okay. Cool. And Tim Plunkett reviewed it, and he's a subsystem maintainer, so that looks great. And it looks like you have reviewed the docs parts. Okay, let's just take a look at this real quick. Sorry, I don't have Dredditor set up, so this is a little bit like, you know, old school. Okay. Interesting. Oh, I guess you have to override that because that's from the general entities will call it delete because it actually deletes. Okay. Those been removed, and then we just have to update some tests. Okay. That all looks good too. Fortunately, everyone saw me test that on simplytest.me, so we know that it worked great. Aren't I funny? Anyway. Okay, so let's look at this list. Tim Plunkett, you did a review, so congratulations. You get a thing. Hey, am I still here? Can people still see me in here?
Yes, yes, you're doing fine.
Okay. In awe. Ooh! Somebody ran PHP-CS. Great job, MSTI, as a volunteer. You're wonderful. Okay. Shisha. Okay. Sorry,
He just
Shisha.
assigned himself, yeah.
Yep, you assign it to yourself and then did not do anything, so you do not get credit, which is why it's important to look at this stuff. I think Senates might have done the same thing. Oh no, okay. They're working, it's just sort of off the grid, so that's okay. Okay. Gilroy, I imagine yours was related to...
I tagged it Novus, just to make it bubble up.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Nope.
Well, that's borderline. 0N. And you do not get credit for... Okay. Druin tried to do this, but it was already being worked on. Okay. I think I'm happy with this. Anybody want to...
Seems good.
Okay. Whoops, not I thought two to that, 'cause that's going to be a bad habit to break. Okay,
Nice.
save. Did I misspell something?
Good.
By the way, people have often asked me if I have a macro for this, and the answer is no, I do not. And you know why? Because you guys work your butts off in order to get anything in front of a core committer, so I figure the least I can do is hand type thanks for you.
Yes.
So, just to let you know. I do it all old school, man. All right. There we go. Sweet. And let's go. I don't think we have time for one more. Should we see? I just want to see what that last one was. because I don't remember. Date range separator should be translatable. Oh, that sounds like it might be easy. Can we just take a quick look?
Do you want to put it on fixed as well, the last one?
God dang it, see? I always Thank you. This is why I should only commit with an audience, because they help me not miss all the things I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh, I just wanted to write my thank you in there as well.
Oops. There we go. Woo. Great. All right. How about this one? 6.15. Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Ooh. I'm going to say no. That's not something I can review in 3 minutes. Sorry.
No.
But hey,
Yeah.
made some good progress on the rest of this. I'm just going to quickly click into this one and see if it's easy by chance. 1.39. Well, yeah, probably not in 3 minutes though. Fix offset and goofy white jagged background of Ajax Traveler. That's mine. Is that one easy? That's pretty easy. But I kind of want to test that by hand and make sure that it's working. So yes. So sadly, that's as far as we're going to get on this call. But thank you. That was great. We got at least 2 of them, and they were both Dublin patches, and I love that. So.
At my core, just in preparation for my core conversation, I did a search on fixed usability issues for Drupal core, and a full page of issues is 50, right?
Yep.
And we had 50 fixed issues in the last 3 months. So that was pretty good, I think.
Yay!
Yeah, we want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we want to do 100.
Yeah.
I make more issues for the Iron Camp.
Hey, there we go. Okay, so we are through our topics for today. Did people come up with other questions, topics they would like to see discussed in a next edition of this?
Meaning the one in like 12 hours from or 11 hours from now?
No, just in general. I mean,
in general. In general, I feel like the biggest important things to keep on top of are media, workflow, default content, and blocks and layouts. So, I mean, those feel like the most user-facing things that have momentum at the moment.
Yeah. So for blocks and layouts, it would be good to have an update then, because I think that's the least on my radar. Let's say. I don't know if that's for everybody. It's not that it should be for me only, but.
I feel like Ted maybe gave a demo of that the other week, but
could be.
But yeah, I think that those would be the big 4, at least, that I know Dries is interested in and that I'm interested in. And obviously the other thing would be, we have a lot of these issues that we've been reviewing along the way, like the redesign admin page and stuff, or the admin status page and stuff like that. And you know, I noticed that has another 51 comments since the last time I looked at it, which is scary. But I feel like it would be great if we could get a couple of those down to completion, because those are, you know, those are eager new contributors trying to get some stuff done.
Okay.
Yeah. But so other than that, I don't have a lot to add.
By the way, I just added the example content story to the issues ideas queue.
All right.
The link is right there in the at the bottom of the chat.
All right. Okay, well, we made it to the top of the hour. Thanks everybody for attending and your input. And see you next time.
All right, sounds great, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.